growing. But the point I was making about daycare like in today's world, when you wind up going into the family system, family court system, right? Again, y'all know how I feel about the way we do business, right? We monetize children in this country, like, which is, to me, is evil. The child has to be removed from one parent, and the more time the child spends away from the parent, the more that parent has to pay. I really think that's an evil system, and maybe it made sense at some point, but it doesn't make sense now, given the fact that the child is either in child care, daycare, or in school. So I know a dude who went through this, right? Had a kid, right? And the kid wasn't in school yet. The kid was in daycare. So it was a 9 to 5. The child would be Monday through Friday. Basically, from 9 to 5, the child was in daycare. From 9 a.m., the mother would drop the child off 9 a.m., pick the child up at 5 in the evening, right? Every day, Monday through Friday. The guy, off days were during the week. You know how sometimes you got those split off days or whatever. You got like a Monday, Thursday off, or, whatever you got. So his off days were always during the week because he worked weekends. So he would be off Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Sometimes he would be Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. It would change, but he would be off the whole day. And the guy says, he's like, man, I went to the judge and asked the judge, like, well, listen, because everything was based the way it was based. This is how much time the court will break down a percentage. This is the percentage of time you have with the child. Therefore, that equals this much money a month in child support. It pretty much works like that probably in every state. I am no expert, guys. You got any questions, go talk to a family lawyer. Go talk to the pros. Don't talk to your friends. Don't go on YouTube. Go talk to the pros where you live, right? So we're just going to tell the story. The guy who was already a father, he already had kids. You know what I mean? He had some of his kids live with him. He had 2 kids that he had full time that stayed with him. So this guy was more experienced. He was a more experienced parent right off rip. This woman just was her only child, right? And the child was young. So more experienced. And he's in there, he's talking to the judge. They're looking at everything. He's like, well, look, Your Honor, I'm off on these days. I'm off during the week. On my days off, can I go to the daycare at 10 o'clock? Mind you, the child got there at 9. Can I go to the daycare at 10 o'clock and sign my child out and bring my child back at 4 o'clock? Because, child got dropped off at 9, picked up at 5. So can I come in at 10 to pick up the child and keep my child until 4 and then bring the child back? The judge said no. The judge said no. Right. So whenever I have, mostly women, some dudes, you got some, white knight dudes be talking about how men are deadbeats and they don't want to be with their children and this, that, and the third. When I hear that, I always tell that story. And I'm like, the system monetizes children and they will protect that money. There was absolutely no reason that this man couldn't be with his child for 6 out of the 8 hours that his child was going to be in daycare with strangers. And he was paying for it anyway. And it wasn't like you're going to get a refund on your, child care. Anybody who's dealing with child care, you paying whether the kid in there or not, right? So you got the slot, you paying. So he wasn't doing this because he's trying to save money. He's just like, I can work, it's worked out. I'm off during the week. Can I go at least spend time with my child? And you got some other person, some judge who doesn't know anything about you and whoever, what's going on with your family, that said no. There was absolutely no reason for the judge to deny that request. It didn't make any sense at all. At least not to me. The only thing I can make out of it is that time would have changed the child support. Right? You have to add now you got to add. This is per week. Now you got to add so what is it was 14 hours. You got to add 14 hours, which changes the percentage, which would again in the computer change the amount of child support you pay. So I'm like, why is this judge protecting that system? Why? Because the system is worth a lot of money. We monetize children. And like I say, that's an evil thing. So this is all the kind of stuff that I tell folks, like, man, so that has nothing to do with marriage. Marriage is just on top of that. You know what I mean? That's when you losing property and you paying alimony. That's something separate. But the way we handle our children in this country is just wrong. So again, I'm not a fan of Ron DeSantis. Um, but what they did in Florida with respect to the 50-50, mandating that children have equal access to both parents, they got that right. They got that right. And that is what we can do to change things. For the brother that was asking me. And I'm gonna address that in a separate video just for dude. Make a video just for him. Probably tell that story again. And what can we do? We can educate ourselves, we can organize ourselves, we can communicate and link up from state to state to state. We can put together a database, we can put together a small team. So when we go have these debates and we pump out this content and people look at it, they're like, wait a minute, I didn't know it was like that. And we can give them facts as opposed to feelings. This is how it works in this state. Kentucky is doing this, California is doing that, Florida is doing this. And when you do that and we just kind of build a network, the way the system is now will crumble under that network, because it only makes sense to allow children to have equal access to both parents. It only makes sense. And that's what they say that we're doing. They say everything they're doing with child support is supposed to be in the child's best interest. So how is it not in the child's best interest to have equal access to both parents, especially when the child is in daycare the vast majority of the time anyway, daycare and or school. And then that time when they're not in daycare and or school, that's the time we split up. Right. At least that's my thought on that, man. Y'all let me know. Let that sink in. Let me know. But like Bill Burr's talking about, me, you got dudes out here getting married, getting wrecked, knowingly getting wrecked, and just can't wait to do it. Just lining up. Is this the line I stand in and lose half my stuff? Okay, great. Come on now. Right. And then, talking about the feminism and guys having to sacrifice themselves to let women and children get away and live. It's like, like you said, there's no such thing as a feminist in a fire. You know what I mean? It's like, and that extra money, like, oh, the pay gap, that's a service charge. Right? If I got to sit here and burn to death, then I'm going to get that extra dollar now, which is, that's just him saying his thing. But then we all know that's not the reason for the pay gap. We know we know the pay gap is something else. But I like his take on